Okay. This is the list, right? So first, feats. This is gonna be difficult for me to talk about just because feats is something that okay, let me start from the beginning. Okay, hello. Very epic. Okay, sick. Difficult for me to talk about, but okay, let me start from the beginning. These are like the biggest things I can think of that are wrong with For Honor, right? And with feats specifically, it's difficult for me to say exactly what's wrong because I don't have a simple solution. Which means that I cannot just, you know, if someone on Ubisoft is listening, they can just like take notes and be like, oh yes, I see, Pepe notes or whatever the fucking emote is, right? But with feats specifically, it's like, okay, a lot of feats are anti-fun. A lot of feats are anti-fun. A lot of feats are anti-counterplay. There is no counterplay to certain feats. Traps, all of the traps, in fact, but Bird Trap and Stein Trap the most. Certain feats like Morale Boost Scout, there's no counterplay. Nothing that can be done to beat out those things, and if those, and except for just not letting them get there with Morale and Scout, right? Especially since they like work together, like you can stack them. So there's a lot of feats that are just not interactive. Those are not interactive feats. You just get more damage, that's it. You just win the team fight. Also they influence other feats. So like you throw a Fire Flask when you have Morale Booster and Scout on you, that Fire Flask will now do hundreds of times more damage, right? So that's not something that's good, obviously, for the game. So what I want is a rework of the feat system, or at least a rework of a lot of the feats or removal of a lot of the feats. Just look at all the feats that are uninteractive, are unfun, and don't have counterplay. Like group them all together and see, okay, how many of these feats can we save? How many of these feats are salvageable? How many of these feats are something that we can do with? What can we do? With certain feats, I think there are some things you can do. Like with Revenge Attacks, I think you can rework it to be a better feat and work better. I think with something like Morale Booster, Scout, I'm not sure if you can. Because it's global. And you have to obviously make it not global, but then what do you do to make it interesting? I'm not sure. But you have to look at all of those feats and be like, okay, what can we do to fix them? For example, in terms of Bird Trap, what you could do is you could make it so maybe if someone gets hit by a heavy, like someone gets trapped, right, in the Bird Trap, they get hit by heavy, they get their stamina back or something, so that it's not as uninteresting and unfun to play with. Obviously, they don't have to. Obviously, traps also cannot be invisible. Things like that, right? I'm talking about specific feats, but this goes for all feats that are like that. And what I want instead is I want more utility-based feats. So feats like Shaolin's, right? Shaolin has a lot of really cool feats. All of his feats, except his tier 1, is fun and it's interactive, and there's counterplay to each one of them. Except for his tier 3, which I think is a little bit too strong. But even his tier 3 changes his playstyle and works in a way that is fun to play with. So more feats that are utility based, because that creates a more individuality on how you use them, more ways to express your skill when you use them, and simply there's more counterplay just by default of having utility feats. And when it comes to feats, also last thing is with feats, a lot of the new characters have better designed feats than the season 1, season 2, season 3 characters, right? So that is already going to the right direction, but there's so many feats that are still stuck in the game being absolute cancer. Okay, so that's feats. And again, I don't have a simple solution here. Renown, I have a simple solution. Renown, the problem is it's not consistent. This is Renown in Dominion specifically. Although Skirmish and Elimination, I'm pretty sure it's the same. Renown in Dominion is not... Renown is not consistent. The way it works, Renown, is there's like 5 or 6 or 7 different bonuses that just don't make sense. Like there's one if you like kill someone after they kill you 4 times in a row or something like that, and you just randomly get like 100 renown. Obviously it's not exactly 100, but then the kill renown that you get is also inconsistent. What you need to do then is remove bonuses. I think 100% just remove bonuses and make it so that for a kill and for an assist, for boosting a point, for getting a point, you always get the exact same amount. and then add a little bit more variety to it with feats. For example, with levels. Sorry. So if I'm level 1 and my opponent is level 0, I would get a little bit less renown for killing him because I have the advantage of my level 1 feat. That also makes it so that even though I have the advantage of a feat, which makes it so that I have the advantage in being stronger, I get less for killing him, which makes it a little bit more easy to come back in the game. Not really that big of a deal, but it still makes it a little bit easier because I get a little bit less renown, so it's a little bit more difficult to snowball the game, because that's one of the minions I think biggest issues. It's so easy to snowball a game, just lose from one fight. And then for things like assists, for example, do it off of the amount of damage that a teammate did, or if you want to make it easy, just do it off of how many people got an assist. So I am 3v1ing someone. I get the last hit, I get 20 renown, let's say, and then my teammates get a combined pool of 10, so they get 5 each, something like that, or whatever the numbers exactly would be, obviously. And I think that works, and I think that's the simple way to make renown work and make it consistent and make it not care about the dumb classes that are in the game, which are not necessary at all. Then the reason that I think that this could actually happen is because that's kind of how it works in Breach. There is no okay, Assassin gets more for this, okay, Heavy gets more for this. There's nothing like that in Breach. Renown is consistent in Breach. I don't think it's good, but it's much more consistent, and it's just simply much better because of that. Revenge, simply, the biggest thing is Revenge bar is just not existent, which is why I didn't put user interface in here, because just Revenge, there needs to be a Revenge bar that's visible. That's been needed for 3 years. Everyone knows at Ubisoft that this is needed, and nothing has been done. And I mean, yeah, when it comes to more things of how Revenge works, I think you shouldn't be able to stack it forever or keep it forever. I mean, things like that in a team fight. Maybe make it so that if you don't activate it within 10 seconds of getting it, maybe then it just activates for you or something like that. But Revenge bar is the 100% necessary thing. Bugs for 3 years now have been deciding competitive games, and it's not fun, it's not interesting. There's nothing there's no outplaying a bug. There's no oh, okay, well, Impale just decided to phase through this wall, and so I have lost this game. Oh, okay, my feet decided to go somewhere around the map, okay, so I have lost the game. Oh, okay, Shaman Bite just didn't let me pop Revenge, okay, so I lost the game. These are the bugs I'm talking about. These are specifically the bugs that have existed in the game for a long time. And obviously there was more bugs in the past, and now there's a bug where, for example, you can sometimes not be able to use a Revenge because the game thinks you're trying to emote. Shit like that. Let's just fix that, because otherwise, which is very obviously easy to say, fix bugs, but they create inconsistencies within the game that's already very inconsistent. We used to say within the first year or two of For Honor, the only consistent thing in For Honor is that it's inconsistent. It's always going to be inconsistent. So you have to fix that as much as possible. RNG is just here for indicators sometimes disappearing in ways that are not inconsistent, that are not consistent. Indicators sometimes lingering for a long time. This happens a lot with BP Flip, where he flips or he attempts a flip, and you get the indicator on every person forever, for the entire game, or until you die or something. You get that. RNG as well with Fire. Go on Shard, tell me that the game is fine. Go on Shard B, fight someone 2 times even, fight someone in a 1v1 and tell me the game is fine. Things like that. This is, with bugs and Revenge as well, this is kind of related, because now that someone gets, randomly gets Revenge, we just say it, you just get surprised. So that's also technically not RNG, but again, very, very annoying, very unintuitive as well to play with. So things like that need to be fixed. I don't think environmentals should be a thing in Dominion. Lack of universal offense, and this is, 500 damage slides are not offense, and Ubisoft agrees with that. Ubisoft knows this, but their way of fixing this issue is wrong, I think. Because their way of fixing the issue is, okay, well, 500 MS is not good, well, then let's make it 400. And that's okay, well, then you're going to have people who can just react to the 400 just fine, and then you're going to have the majority of people who just can't react, and now they're just not having fun, because they can be spammed to death from neutral, and that's not interesting. That's not fun to play with. Now, of course, you're always going to have people complaining about light spam. You're always going to have people complaining about these issues, even if they're not issues for higher level players. But you want to make that you want to work against that as Ubisoft, right? So what you want to do, I think, specifically in this situation, is you want to have every 500 ms slide be make it slower, make it even like 466, make it 433, whatever, it doesn't matter. I look at this right now, whatever, it doesn't matter, make it enhanced. Every 500 ms slide is enhanced, and then now you've created a universal offense for every character that then you can boost their chains, you can do things with their finishers that may be good, you can boost whatever part of offense of the character you want, without giving them an unreactable attack from neutral, which is not fun to play against, or maybe it's fun to play with, but it's not fun to play against. Also, things like 400 ms slides from neutral, they were intended, I guess, as offense, but they're just defense. So I'm not sure how you'd fix even that, if you would even try to fix that. So yeah, I think that's the thing with universal offense. Like, you don't make it so that you don't fix offense by creating a bigger divide between people who have good reactions and bad reactions. You do it by making it so that both the people who have bad reactions and good reactions can react to the first attack, and then they know, okay, well, I just blocked this light attack, now I know, okay, this heavy can come, this unblockable can come, this bash can come, this Shaolin can now go into key stance and mix me up, things like that. And for every character you can make it different, you can make it to not make it so that every character will just, okay, light bash, light bash, light bash. Obviously that's not fun, you have to, make it more interesting than that. But still, I think that would be obviously creates probably some balance issues. Like, for example, BP, just light bash, light bash, light bash. But that's something you can deal with on an individual basis, and would help the game severely much more than just creating a bigger divide between competitive and low-level players. New player experience is something I've talked about for like years already, and I've talked about it to Ubisoft for years already. To the point where, if you've noticed, there is no videos for characters in-game. I don't know if you guys know this. Let's go heroes. Pick. I want to learn Nobushi. How do I play Nobushi? Well, there isn't anything here that I could learn. Maybe they moved it to a different thing. Okay, let's go training. Training media. Oh no, there is nothing. Game mode videos. Nope. Faction war video. Nope. Arcade tutorial. No. There's nothing for the heroes that used to be with the videos and shit like that. They removed it. They removed it at the beginning of season 9, and they claimed it. Then they claimed they removed it on season 10, which is wrong. But they did that, right? And so they realized, even themselves, that was terrible, that was not good for the game, which is smart. That was terrible, but you don't do it, you don't fix new player experience by just removing that and not adding anything else. That's not, again, helping the new player experience. With new player experience as well, a big deal is going to be the second point here. Like, those are kind of the same to me. Matchmaking. Matchmaking just doesn't work properly. It used to work apparently for like a month or something, but it just doesn't work properly. Like, I can 4-stack and I will get more rep zeros than I get anybody else. I will get more rep zeros than I get rep hundreds when I 4-stack with anyone. I can be 4-stacking with 3 competitive players and I will be getting rep zeros, and it's not fun to play with for me, for the players, for my team, for enemy team. Recently, or like a month or two ago, at the beginning of the season, I queued with like Crack and Railvet Servant in a 3-stack, and we got an entire game of rep zeros, and I just left. I just out of and I'm like, okay, well, enough for honor for today. I can go something else that doesn't make me want to kill myself. And matchmaking just needs to be fixed. Like, there's a player, I think Fatal does that, where he has screenshots of every time since the beginning of the game, or at least since he started doing that somewhere at the beginning of the game, where he screenshots every time that he gets into a match with rep zeros. Which means he's got like thousands of screenshots, which he's sent to Ubisoft, and he's talked to Ubisoft about that. Like thousands of screenshots of rep zero gameplay, and that's just terrible. That should never be the case. I would much rather wait 10 minutes for a game than get a rep zero in 2 minutes. At the end of the day, what I do is I wait 10 minutes and then I get rep zeros anyway, so that I don't know what the point even is. But yeah, more about new player experience. Like, I don't mind the game not telling as much as it probably could, because I understand that maybe, I don't know, Ubisoft just doesn't have the time. Maybe they're very busy doing something. I don't know. I understand not necessarily telling everything, but the things that the game tells you are wrong. Like, it lies to you. The movesets are laughable. The Hero tactics are, again, laughable. Hero tactics just lie to you. In some situations, hero tactics, the bot doesn't even do what it's supposed to. It doesn't try to parry when it's supposed to parry, and because of that, you can't even do what you're trying to do, what you're told to do. The mix-ups in hero tactics are like someone just bashed their head on the controller, and there you go. Here's an advanced mix-up because we couldn't replicate it. Because the head smash being too difficult for us to replicate. Like it's just baffling how bad this can be. This, I think, is the reason I would never recommend For Honor to someone who's trying to play a new game, unless they have someone a little bit more experienced who they can play with. If they're by themselves, I would never tell them to play For Honor unless they are ready to watch YouTube more than learning from the game. Networking, I talked about damage being too high is something that's kind of obvious, and we've kind of talked about this, like we've been talking about this for a long time as well. Like ganks doing like 100+ damage is, I think, too much. Light parries, like Lawbringer light heavy parry is like 50 damage or like 45 or whatever after the rework. I can't remember the exact numbers. His light parry punish is also around 45, 40, 50 maybe, something around that. The damage numbers are just insane. I don't think I want every character to have like 25 damage heavies, that's it. But I don't want every character to have 50 damage heavies. I want something in the middle, something like 30, for example. I think 30 damage heavies are fine because it still feels like I'm doing damage, but it doesn't feel, like my opponent just dies from one hit. What that means also is, like, I don't want like too low damage, because when I played Valk with 24 damage heavies, I just felt like I was healing my opponents. I don't want to heal my opponents. I do want to see their bar go down, not up, and that would be preferable. But yeah, damage is too high, and a big problem with damage being too high is the more the game goes into a read-based direction, the more problems damage being too high introduces. And the reason is, in Dominion, you don't have many chances to see your opponent and be like, okay, well, this is the type of player he is, and I'm going to be playing against him, not even necessarily against the character, right? In duels, we have 5 rounds, up to 5 rounds, at least 3 rounds, to see what kind of patterns the player falls into, and every player will have a pattern. So in duels, it's still a problem, but it's not as big of a problem, I think, as in Dominion. Because in Dominion, you might fight against someone 1v1, like maybe once, maybe twice a match, and you just won't be able to read them because he just does whatever, and you can't read it because you just have one fight against that guy to be able to read him. And I think that obviously, like, a better player will still win a 1v1, but the reason I think this matters is because you want the lower level players to understand what's going on as well, and have more time to be able to prepare for every fight, and to be able to understand what's happening in the game. And yeah, like, I think ganks as well it's too easy to kill people, but then if you lower the damage, that might be a little bit too hard to kill people. But of course, balancing would need to be done with it, testing grounds, things like that. That's what I hope they are for. But I think ultimately damage being lowered across the board, for the moves that would be deemed to have too much damage, I think that would be a net positive for the game. Ranked, I've talked about it in a different different video. I talked about it on stream many times. Ranked 1v1 doesn't work. I don't want to go too in depth on that one, but it just doesn't work. The gains and losses are terrible. You can just get points for quitting games and just getting points. If you play against a bot, like, you can get your friend to leave a game, queue into you, leave a game, and then you play against a bot, you get like 500 points in GM, and you just win the game. So you get your number 1 GM, and you're the number 1 player in the world, and you're very cool. And so 1v1 doesn't work, right? Yeah, this is live, Tinkle. This is live. I'm just playing you guys a video. No, ranked in 1v1 doesn't work, so fix that. But a bigger deal, which is why I'm just kind of not talking too much about 1v1, the bigger deal is introduce 4v4 ranked in a way that works, in a way that makes sense, and in a way that makes people want to play it. Ranked is the most important. Ranked is the one thing they can do to make the game better. If they only had one change to do, let me say it like this. If they only had one change they could do and that they leave the game alone, adding 4v4 ranked, I think, is that one change that would make the game just ultimately much better. I think all of these need to be fixed, right? Before the game gets good. in my opinion. But if you had to fix only one of those things, I think 4v4 ranked would be the #1 priority. If you only could choose one. I think it's more important than damage being too high, than even new player experience, because somehow people still play the game. I don't know why. I think it's even more important than like inconsistent renown or something like that. I think still 4v4 ranked is the #1 like priority if there would be only one change to be made. Yeah, maps. There's how many maps in For Honor? When was the last one they added that was good? Season 2. Season 2 Temple Garden. That was May 2017. Now it's September 2019. There's about how many maps are there in For Honor? Let's see. Let's check how many maps there are in For Honor for Dominion specific. This is a Dominion discussion mostly. Dominion specific maps. So let's go Dominion maps. Citadelgate, good map. Overwatch, pretty good map. Since they reworked it this season, it used to be garbage. Sankbridge, I think it's a pretty terrible map, but people do play it and people do like it, so I will count it as a good map. Riverford, terrible map. Shard, terrible map. Like, we played this for so long just because every other map is so terrible in tournaments. We played it for so long, but look at B, look at A, and you will not enjoy For Honor. Just look at them, not even play them. Look at them and you would never enjoy For Honor. Highford, I think Highford is the best map when it comes to the size. I think For Honor lends itself better to bigger maps than to small maps like Sankbridge, which is why I'm not a fan of Sankbridge, but I am a slightly bigger fan of Highford, even though the map is far from perfect, right? Forge, terrible map. Temple Garden, pretty good map. Sentinel, terrible. Gauntlet, terrible. Beachhead, terrible. Harbor, terrible. So you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 maps, and like 5 of them are like playable, and that's only playable because every other one of them is so bad. The biggest problems with maps is like some of the maps are not salvageable. You cannot fix Forge. I don't think you can ever fix Forge. So just keep it as a terrible map it is. I don't think you can ever fix Riverfront. Keep it as a terrible map it is. I think you could possibly fix Shard. I think you could possibly fix Sentinel, possibly, maybe. Although that one's a little bit difficult, I think. You can fix some of the maps, but most importantly, remove the insane amount of environmentals. Remove the insane amount of like fire on certain maps, like on Shard. Remove the spikes on Beachhead. Why is there spikes on Beachhead every fucking where? Why is that a thing? Things like that are very simple. It's literally just removing something from the map. It doesn't take much time. It's not difficult to do. But it's not been done, and it's so annoying because some of the things that need to be changed are difficult. Some of the things that would need to be changed to make like Forge good is like you'd have to just basically make another map. So leave Forge alone. Make the changes that are needed, and make the simple changes to be able to maybe now we can play on 6 maps. Now you can maybe play on 7, maybe 8 maps, and that creates more variety as well for when someone wants to watch a tournament and they can see 7, 8 maps rather than the same 5 maps for the last few years. Okay, and the last one, like super big one, is Stamina. Stamina is just insanely terrible in For Honor. Like, you get parried on a heavy, and I think it takes like 84 stamina to get parried or something like that. And your normal stamina like pool is like 120, 130 or something like that. I'm not too knowledgeable on the specific numbers of stamina, but I think a normal stamina pool is about 120 to 130, and 84 stamina you lose for just getting parried in a heavy, and I don't think that even counts the stamina you get to throw the heavy. I'm not entirely sure on that. Maybe it does, but even if it does, 84 stamina is insane. You lose more stamina for getting blocked than hitting. You lose more stamina for whiffing. You lose all of those things, and it's insane. You lose stamina for fainting. You lose a decent amount of stamina. Depending on the character, it's different for certain characters. It's insane how terrible stamina is. And then they make a character like George or Jorm or whatever you'd call him, and he just shows the problem to everyone, even though the character is not very good, of course. But you get hit by a few times by the bash a few times, you're out of stamina, and you're like, wait, why? I just opened this game. You get parried on a heavy. He bashes you once, you're out of stamina. You're like, wait, I've opened a video game. I am trying to play a video game. Can I please play the video game? Can I get to play a video game when I open my video game? Or is there just no video gaming allowed for me when I play the video game? And usually the answer is yeah, there is no video gaming allowed when you open the video game. And stamina is like a huge issue, especially when it comes to quality of life, and when it comes to seeing how fun the game could be, and when it comes to enjoying the game. Like, it's not fun to be out of stamina. It's not even fun necessarily, I don't think, to just get some amount of stamina. But it's definitely not fun to be out of stamina. And the amount of damage you take is also insane. But I think the biggest problem is like the amount of stamina you lose for getting parried, the amount of stamina you lose for getting blocked, for whiffing a heavy, things like that. Remove all of those costs, and when it comes to getting parried, just like cut the cost in half. Instead of 84 or whatever, make it half of that. I'm not doing math on live. I'm not doing make it half of that. Whatever that is. And that makes it already so much more fun to play the game. You already can play the game so much smoother. There's so much more flow that you can do. You can press so many more buttons in For Honor. That's insane. And of course, again, like someone could say that that probably would create some balance issues. For example, zone attacks would probably be too strong if you lowered the stamina cost by like 50%. So you wouldn't necessarily have to do that, right? You could keep stamina cost for zone similar, because zones are very, very difficult, very, very strong attacks with options like properties, right? So that's whatever, that's fine. You don't even have to necessarily lower the stamina cost of attacks. You just have to remove all the stamina penalties that are not necessary, and lower the ones for getting parried and things like that. I think those are like the biggest issues in the game. Like, I'm sure there's more, but I think these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These 12 things I think are the most important. Some of them are like just in-game things like universal offense, revenge, renown, stamina. Some of them are like map some of them are like things you do in the menu, like new player experience. You can fix that. Matchmaking is a little bit less on in-game, ranked, maps, and there's also obviously a lot more that I could talk about, but I think these are like the most fucking important. If you fix those, you can actually have a good game. Are they gonna fix this? No. I think the only possible ones they're gonna fix is like universal offense. Maybe they're gonna do something to stamina, and maybe they're gonna slowly try and fix maps. I would be surprised if they did anything else to any of these things. But I think these are the biggest things that need fixing.